Well, imagine that you're still in this class? Are you sure?
Yes, I'm sure.
You go to France? So imagine that your parents migrated here from India, let's just say. Now, India didn't give your parents much hope, no jobs, things are expensive, they can't save money to buy a house, and all of a sudden you see Justin Timberlake or Beyonce on TV, and they tell you that if you come to America, all your hopes and dreams will come true. Your mom never went to school, your father has perhaps, fifth grade education. So you guys come here, and you do very much like what I did. You are a maid, you wash dishes, you wash floors, you wash cars, and then your dad tells you, this is America, it's not India. You can actually go to school, and it's for free. And so you say no. I mean, that's what communal people do, in the sense that you look at your parents and you say, I want to help them out, I don't want to leave them. And so you sacrifice your own life so that your mom can rest another couple of hours, so you won't go to school. There comes a point where you look at your parents, you look at their life, you look at how much money your father makes, your mother makes, and you say, I love my parents, but $20 an hour in America doesn't do much, And you begin to look at the political situation, what would happen if you were back to India, what would happen if your father got sick, what would happen if your mother got sick. Just in case, your kid brother is being bullied at school, maybe you want to help your parents move to a new neighborhood, maybe send them to a private school. And all of a sudden you begin to look at money in a very, very different way. You begin to look at it politically. You begin to look at your environment, your social environment politically. And you say to yourself, okay, if I was to continue doing what I am doing, I'd probably max make about $30 an hour. If on the other hand, I was to go to school, get a degree in ABCD, get a job somewhere in Silicon Valley, make about 150, 200,000 a year. I can help my parents, buy them a house, buy them a car, give them health care. And then you go to school not because you love wisdom, not because you love the subjects, but because you understand the importance of money, you understand the brutality of being poor. That education is really, 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 really good. It's something I always say to my students who have a companion, and they're like 20, 30, and they're just starting school. And I tell them, you know what, dump them. Don't be with anyone. Finish school, and once you have educated your mind the way you think, the way you feel about things, when you have a good filter inside you, where you can process life experiences well, then go out there and find yourself a companion. Then you know who you are to some extent, you know what you want, and you can kind of choose your companion. And if you live in life, you have no choice but to be political. I mean, you're not writing these essays, hello Matthew, you're not writing these essays because you love these ideas. It's a political act. You don't come to class because you like me. It's a political act. You want a grade so you can kind of get closer to your graduation. You're not with your companion because you love him. I mean, that's stupid. I mean, nobody should marry for love. Allahu Akbar. You should marry because of political reasons. Does he have money? Is he good to his parents? Does he have a house? Is he educated? Is he like right in the head? If you're in life, be political. Hello. I mean, yesterday I was walking and I ran into, from a distance, I saw someone that looked like ice. I said, the way I look, I could be cuffed. Nobody would care if like I'm a citizen or this or that. So I acted politically. And the guy was looking at me, and there was this woman who was passing me by. I didn't know what to do, so I grabbed the woman and kissed her. Created a camouflage. Isabel.
I've been thinking a lot about the root of like ethics, and I feel like in a lot of senses, ethics can have, or the way that other people have described ethics can have a right or wrong answer, or like ethical dilemmas and things like that. How would you describe ethics? Because I feel like a lot of the ways in which you confront them is philosophy, but I'm just wondering like what just your basic, how you would basically describe ethics.
So for the longest time in our human culture, religion was the foundation of human belief system. Do you have sex before marriage? The answer is no, Isabel. No. Jesus Christ. The answer is no. Do you take your parents to a nursing home when they're like old and almost dead? No. No. Do you use profanities? No. Do you like leave your parents home when you're 18 to experience independence? No. I mean, they were not given to you by your parents. God put them down somewhere on a certain book. You go buy milk and people tell you the 10 Commandments. You stand to buy a pound of meat, somebody tells you another religious story. That's how we were for the longest time. And then it changed. I mean, imagine if everyone in this room was a Catholic. What would happen? Everybody in this room would believe that sex before marriage is offensive to God. Right? That God is ever present. He's everywhere. So no masturbation. Right? Now, what you have now in the 20th century or 21st century is, well, you have an atheist there, you have an agnostic there, right? You have a Muslim there, a Hindu there, a Buddhist there, and a Christian there, and a Jew there. So you ask a Christian who you are, say, oh, I'm a sinner. You ask a Buddhist, there is no sin inside me. I just suffer from ignorance, lack of, paying attention to things. Now you have cultural relativity. And somehow we got to make peace with everyone in this room. Now, let me make it a bit more simple. May I? Do you play the piano, Isabel? Are you good? Did you have a teacher? Did the teacher allow you to just do whatever you want? Did she slap you once in a while? He? Ooh. Kick you, maybe punch you? Slap your fingers. Well, that's okay. Thank you for clarifying it. Yeah?
If you had something in life, where would you put it?
Where would I put it? What do you mean? Like what? Can we finish this before? Forgive me. So the point I was trying to make was the following. If you have a piano teacher and you like the piano teacher and you like the instrument, the truth is there is no gray area. There is no relativity. Your teacher is not going to say, well, you can place your finger this way or that way, whichever you like. It doesn't work that way.
There's a right.
There is a right and a wrong. So whenever you want to be good at anything, there is a teacher for it. And that teacher doesn't get involved with gray areas. It's just black and white. When you become really, 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 really good, then sure, you can do gray as much as you want. Okay? Now, it depends what sort of a life you want to live. If you don't take life seriously, well, take GEs for the rest of your life. Stay at Laney for the next 50 years. It's okay. No one's going to condemn you. You're not going to condemn you. If you have no goals in life, you're fine. Do you have a boyfriend? Are you going to marry him? Well, you don't know. That confusion allows you to do whatever. Be with whoever. If, on the other hand, your goal was to get married, have children, build a family, build a stable life, then you would look at this boyfriend very, very close and you say, well, listen, he's no good. No job, no money. He just sucks on honey. It's no way to live life. Right? And you would dump him. Compassion would go out the window. Forgiveness would go out the window. Why? Because that's what happens when you have a goal. That's what happens when you have a purpose. And the problem with having a goal or a purpose is most of what you consider to be pleasure goes out the window. If your goal is to get an A on your math exam, your friends may say, let's go get high. But you have a goal. So it's always good to be confused. Because whenever you're confused, you just play with the gray area. You can do whatever. Like your mom asks you, what are you doing in school? Oh, Mom, I'm trying to figure myself out. Well, damn, you're like 40. When is it going to end? Soon, I hope.
Were you saying like the gray area?
I'm saying that for the longest time in our history, ethics was founded on religion. If not religion, at least the elders in your community. Now that religion is no longer the center of, life, what you have is replace religion with therapists. You no longer need to go to a church, you just go to a therapist office. You no longer need to see the Pope, you just simply see the therapist. And you no longer need to read the Bible, you read the DMS to see what problems you have. And let me just say this last part and then we'll go to her and then you. Don't forget your question though. Remember some years ago in one of those books, The Rich Young Man in the New Testament? Do you remember that book? Yeah, like Brad Pitt going to Jesus saying, I spend a lot of money, a lot of time making money, saving money, and I buy a lot of things with my money. But I came to your house a couple of days ago, I listened to you talk and you inspired me. You talked about eternal life. Can I get that? He says, yeah, you can get that. The only thing is you gotta get rid of all the things that you have. And what you have all of a sudden is a change in ethics, a change in the way you see yourself and the change you want to behave in life, and your goal changes. So sometimes someone can have the power to inspire you so that your perspective about who you are, what you are, where you want to go, how you want to go there. Is that, Arvi?
Yeah,
Is it?
I get what you're saying. I just was wondering.
Oh.
Yeah.
No. Yeah, okay. Yeah. 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 No. There is a difference between the spiritual and the religious. Are you in a relationship right now? Have you ever been? Did you love or was it just like there, like a sofa? So I suppose I would say someone who is religious is like in a long-term relationship. There is not an ounce of passion. Well, it comes and goes. But for the most part, they're there for, it's just nice to watch a movie with someone, have food with someone, fight with someone. Being in love is different. Being in love is you sit by the phone, you wait, and even if this other person like craps all over you, you forgive. You're generous with your time, with your money, with your energy. and you're very intense. You're full of life. So I suppose you could say those who are on the spiritual quest are very much like those who are intensely in love. Those who are religious, they go to church once a week. That's not bad. They can, quote you the Bible. That's not bad either. Once in a while, when they see a homeless person, they give them like $2-3. That's not bad either. But there is certainly a profound difference between someone who's in love and someone who's just in a long-term relationship and then gets bored. And then out of that boredom, you have to kind of just go on a cruise to band-aid the boredom a little. I can't tell you how many times I go to my wife and I say, let's go to Costco. Not because we need anything. If you're able to stretch your imaginations all the way back to those moments where you were in love, you realize the bedroom was sufficient. You and your companion. Fridge, or the round table. They'll bring it to your door. You won't even leave your house for like a couple days. Yeah. But given that most human beings enjoy stability, long-term relationships are really, really, really good. You can't count on love. It's just intense emotions that ebbs and flows. One day you're good, next moment you're bad. At least that's how it used to be. So if you have everything, can you say what that means exactly? Like what, everything?
Like if you had everything that you ever wanted in the world, where would you?
Well, it's a little bit more complicated. So let me explain, if I may. A good amount of who and what you are depends on where you live. I lived in Iran. So the culture is like this billboard. It advertises things on it. Okay? I am a bundle of those advertisements. So because every day I would go out and my ears would be exposed to social and political ideas, I became interested in them. I don't even have a choice about that. Because the culture is religious, I have no choice but to gravitate towards religion. The story here is very different. Music back home, we only had two genres. Pop, which was very sad, traditional, which was even sadder. You have a Persian life which is filled with darkness and gloom. It's been around for like 4,000 years. It's come to realize life just delivers awful things to you. And you create jazz. It's filled with sadness, filled with history. And that history is not one of joy, but darkness and sorrow. Okay? So I can desire something I haven't seen. I can desire something I have not been exposed to. If I was to ask you, would you like to have some qorma sabzi? You would say, what the hell is that? It's because you've never heard it before. You've never seen it before. Your taste buds have never experienced it before. So when you say everything, the question is, well, what is it that your environment exposes you to? Okay? Now, if your dad is a pastor and your mom is a pastor, and from the moment you were born, they kept injecting in your ears, Jesus Christ, Jesus Christ, Jesus Christ, you would realize that eventually you're going to be occupying a church, giving sermons every Saturday and Sunday. That would be your life. And if someone was to ask you, would you like a Tesla? You would say, no. I mean, my church is right there, 10 minutes walking. So most of the things that I desire, you wouldn't desire because you've been exposed to different things. And those things create different desires inside you. Now, let me also say a couple of things about how desires come about. And I'm going to use a study that was done by Stanford some years ago, which was on one of these Super Bowls, halftime, on this Jumbotron. They advertised the logo of Pepsi Cola for no more than maybe a second, even less. The sale of Pepsi Cola went up, but I think either 600%. Now, I have no doubt that people sitting in their car, driving to Safeway or Costco or 7-Eleven assumed that it was they themselves who willed, desired Pepsi. But the truth is they were sold an idea, and some of them bite. Okay? So that's the first thing. So your environment creates desires. And if there is one dominating factor, that is what you're eventually going to desire most important. And then you have sub-branches. The other aspect of desire is the following. You're exposed to something, and all of a sudden you say, I like it. And you keep thinking about it, and you keep seeing it, whether physically or in your imagination. And then you say, you know what? I want it. Do you want a Tesla? Okay, maybe you don't like Elon Musk. Is there another car you want? Is there something you want? What is it? Please. Can we just keep things real, please? The what? Let's just say you want a house in Montclair Village. Allahu Akbar. We are just having a conversation. You don't have to make it so difficult. Now, you and your companion are driving. Accidentally, you find yourself on Snake Road, Montclair. And you see all these houses, 2, 3, 4, 5 acres, woodsy. Okay? And you look to your companion and say, it'd be nice if you had one of these. And he says, yeah. You sit somewhere, eat a sandwich, and drive back to downtown Oakland. Okay? Imagine if you and your companion kept talking about being able to buy a house on Snake Road. What you do is you have a seed. You just saw it, the houses look good, now a seed lives inside you. What if you were able to afford it? And you keep talking about it. And you keep looking at your finances and the things you could sell to make more money. And all of a sudden, this seed, it's no longer just about liking. I really want to move there. It's still in a stage of want, okay? And as you're becoming more and more serious, what happens is it's no longer a want. You talk about this all the time. You think about it all the time. You now need it. What happens now is that you have a relationship, an emotional relationship with an idea. It's not like want, and it's not just like. Okay? On a few occasions after class, you've come and said, you know, listen, I can't be here on this day and that day. I'm really, really sorry. I'm going to miss you. Now, I don't know if by that you mean romantically or not, but let's just keep it innocent and safe, okay? Other people in this class, I mean, Kasara hasn't been here for like 5 months. She doesn't email me, doesn't text me, doesn't come to the office to say, hey, listen, I can't make it. But you do. You know why? Because there is something about our relationship. There is an emotional relationship. It's a connection. Okay? That you say to yourself, out of respect, I want to go to them and say, I can't make it on these dates. Okay? So the moment you are emotionally entangled, it means that that desire now occupies a good amount of space inside you. And let's say your husband sells all of his rings, or your man or whoever, and he sells all of his cars and all the rentals, and now you have like 2 million cash. And you buy this 5-acre property. And you move in, and it's exciting. And it's going to take you about 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 months to figure out what color each room should be, where the sofa should go, where the table should go. You know, you remodel the kitchen, all that stuff. And all of a sudden, something strange is going to happen. You go to Safeway, you go back home, and it's just a house. No different than the house you had downtown Oakland. And then you should say, really? We sold everything to come here, and yet after 4 or 5 months, I feel the same way. That's how desires function. You like, you want, you need, you pursue, you get, then you lose interest. You can never want, okay, you can never have everything that you want. It's impossible. Because whenever you have all the things that you want, something very interesting happens to you. You get bored. Boredom is a place of emptiness. And you and I don't do well with boredom. So you say, okay, well, let me figure out what to do next. I mean, look at Jesus. You like Jesus? Let's talk about Jesus. I know some in this class are like Jesus freaks. Let's talk about Jesus. All right, so he's a miserable young boy at the age of 12. What does he do? He leaves. Where does he go? Egypt, India, Iran. He becomes wise. Let's just say he becomes God. Well, you have everything you want. You have wisdom. You've been wanting it for the 18 years. You have it now. But that's not enough for him. You know what he does? He comes back. Why? Supposedly he wants to rescue us. He comes to realize you're stupid, so he tells us stories. He comes to realize you're really, really stupid, so he does magic tricks. Multiplies bread, fish, walks on water. He comes to realize that we're really, really stupid. He says, you know what? Fuck this. I'd rather die. Okay, well, that's it. Yeah.
Just kind of focusing on religion.
Are we good? You're too kind.
I was wondering why religion has been discentered in present society. Like, I was wondering if it's like a wider population being educated about like scientific developments, or like the progression of history and like the cruelties that have been persisted, and like the general deterioration of society, or could it be like a matter of people focusing on their individuality?
Religion is like any living organism. As time passes, it gets wrinkled up. And we don't like things that get wrinkled and ugly. Okay? So, if you want to understand what happens to religion, you need to go all the way back to the 13th century. For about 600-700 years, what happens is religion gets attacked from all sides. It is true there is a scientific revolution. It is true that human rationality blossoms and reason and faith begin to wrestle. And then from villages, we move to big cities like this. But more importantly, something very, very, very wonderful happens. You know what happens when you live in a small village and your companion is abusive? You've never been to a city. You've never been around healthy people. And so you assume that this is the only relationship that you're ever going to have. And this is just the nature of relationships. Until one day your father sends you to a different town, a bigger town like Oakland. And you come to realize there are men, and these men behave differently. And all of a sudden, your vision begins to grow, expand. You begin to see things differently. Capitalism did something really fascinating for us. You don't have to wait to die to become happy. You could be happy down here. Why do you want to look at life as this like miserable thing? That you're born, you struggle, you suffer, you're always a sinner, and you're never ever able to overcome that until you die. Once you die, God will kind of weight or weigh your soul, if you will, like the Egyptians. If you're good, paradise. If you're bad, hell. If you're in the middle, purgatory for a while. That was the way we used to believe or think for a long, long, long time. We just had religious, faith-based societies. That's all. You don't have to dance for rain to come down. You don't have to pray to the gods for the famine to be removed. You don't have to pray for the rain to stop. Science comes forth and gives us answers to all sorts of things. We understand the nature of the climate, its seasons, what to grow, what not to grow. We are able to kind of have power over life. Add to it, you're able to fall in love. It was a taboo for the longest time in human history. Do you have a boyfriend or a girlfriend okay. So one of these days you're going to have a companion. And if you happen to be in a very poor state inwardly, that you have a lot of needs, and there's a good amount of dissatisfaction inside you, you're going to fall in love in 2 minutes. In other words, anyone who pays you some attention and you like that particular kind of attention, it won't take you very long to fall in love with this person. And so what's going to happen is this person is going to be the very center of the universe. If your mom asks, who are you calling? Johnny. Where are you going? With Johnny. Why are you going to Costco? To buy Johnny underwear. Why are you going to Safeway? Buy milk for Johnny. Everything revolves around Johnny. Okay? That's how we used to be for thousands of years. Everything revolves around God. Everything. Who are you? A fallen angel. What are you doing down here? As bad حادث اینجا به پناه آمده ایم. Adam and Eve, they did something naughty. And I'm paying the consequence. I'm never going to be happy down here because that's what it says in Genesis. Life down here is a vale of tears, blood and sweat, that's all. No joy, no happiness, blood and sweat. And that's how life was seen for the longest time. Now add to it the fact that there's this wonderful creation story that God creates all sorts of things and looks at the human being and creates the human being and says, you know what? I'm going to fart into his mouth. That's like the breath of God. The air that lives, or the spirit that lives in God now lives in you. And he says, I didn't do this for the cows, for the rats, for the donkeys, just for human beings. And you know what? I'm going to create this thing called the earth. And I'm going to dump the human beings down there. And I'm going to give them power over everything. They have dominion. Okay. This means that you are at the very center of the universe. And you're here because God wills it, because God likes it. Because you're the only created thing made in the image of God. Galileo comes about, 15th century. And he says, no, we are just, it's kind of like, Johnny and you, right? You revolve around Johnny, only you come to realize, well, Johnny likes Isabel more than he likes you. Yeah, you're no longer the center of Johnny's life, right? And that's what happens. What happens? You're going to be angry. You're going to be pissed. You'll probably be on drugs. You'll be in therapy for the longest time. and then you'll be like scarred for life. Okay? Galileo comes about and says, you know what? We're just a tiny little dot in the middle of nowhere. And the church tried to silence him, but to no avail. And things like this happen over and over and over again in Western, religious tradition, until there comes a point that religion just falls. You have this guy like Darwin comes about saying, if you have some potatoes in your house, put them in a bag and leave them under your bed. Today, do it. And what will happen is after like a few weeks, you'll see like just insects all over your room. Now, I have no doubt that you will forget about the bag of potatoes under your bed, but the flies will remind you. And then you will try to figure out where are these coming from. And then you'll remember, potatoes under the bed. And you realize what happens is anything that is out there, that to some extent is animated, has the power to generate life. Out of potatoes come flies. Was this an act of God? No. Darwin argued that any living organism out there will refuse to completely go away. It regenerates itself. So what you have in life is this innate intelligence. You can't get rid of life. It's impossible. And you don't really need life. You don't need God. Life knows exactly how to recreate itself. And when you have these assaults on religion and on the human psyche, there comes a point where you say, you know what? Maybe God doesn't exist. Maybe God does exist, but really He's irrelevant to human life. I mean, how many times are you able or have the capacity to take assault and not fight back? There comes a point, the way you fight back is you pack your stuff and you leave. There comes a point where scientific revolution and rationality and human reason becomes far too powerful. And when you look at the Bible, it's filled with contradictions. And they have no historical accuracies. You know this idea of the virgin birth, for example, that you have in the Christian tradition? Up to date, as far as I know, there are 12 figures who were born of a virgin, left their house at the age of 12, came back at the age of 30, preached their gospel for about 3 years or so, and then they died. Even if you were to look at astrology, for example, the way the sun enters a house, the way the sun leaves a certain house, 30th degree, 33rd degree. After a while you say, you know what, maybe it's just all a joke. So the point I'm trying to make is religion may have factual basis, God may in fact exist, but when you get beaten up by religion, by society, by politics, by your own psyche, by all the confusion around you, there comes a point where you say, you know what, this just doesn't make any sense. I've had so many students who have lost one of their parents at a young age, and they were religious, and they have no idea why God took their parents away from them. They refuse to have faith in God. It doesn't take very much for us human beings to lose faith in anything. We have a saying in Persian that we are as resilient as a rock, but as fragile as a petal, a flower. We can easily break, and yet we can stand up to a lot of awful things in life. And we're both cursed and blessed at the same time. But all these things aside, if you have the capacity to read the New Testament and find joy in it, comfort in it, you should do it. It's a great book. I mean, the teachings are great. Not just the 4 Gospels, forget the other books. I mean, it's 27 books. About 14 of them were written by St. Paul, who never saw Jesus, but he had a big mouth and he just liked to write, so he wrote and wrote and wrote and wrote. But the 4 Gospels, and we don't really know who wrote them, they're a gem. They have beautiful stuff in them. If you're able to read them, and they're like food. You just need to make sure that you have a digestive system that is able to process the intellectual nourishments well. Otherwise, you'll be constipated. You'll be like a bigot. You know, only my tradition is the best. Jesus saved my life. That's just for infants. Yeah, Isabel.
Kind of random, but have you ever read the Gnostic Gospels?
Yeah.
You find them. They're from Jesus' youth, but they've been removed from the King James version of the Bible.
Yeah.
It's about him being a little shit.
Yeah. There are lots of, there are about 40 Gospels. Okay. Around 400 years after the death of Jesus, some powerful people like Elon Musk and Trump and those people got together and said, okay, which of these books do we want? And they picked the easiest, the cheapest, the most superficial, and yet, I mean, there are good stuff in them. And so, because these books serve the purpose of the church, their intentions, they kept them. But the other books are really good too. They're not for us though. Yeah. Anyone else? Matthew.
What is the balance between loyalty to self and loyalty to others?
I think there are stages we go through. If you and I were companions, and the way, I mean, it's a question that Kasara asked some time ago, and I failed to answer it properly. And her question was, if you were to go on a date, what would it look like? And the truth is, I think because we are initially very emotional or feeler animals, you look at someone and you don't think about that person rationally. You're guided by your feelings. I like the way they look. There is some energy about them I just enjoy. I like the way I feel when I look at them. So it's all about feelings. And that's how yours and my relationship kind of comes to be. I like you, you like me, this feeling, we go out. And this feeling, if again, that feeling is protected and nourished, it blossoms in this thing called love. Now we have a bona fide relationship. Now, that puts a temporary band-aid on what we call the human condition. You will get bored. Life is frustrating. You're not going to be with me 24/7. You're going to go out there. Your boss is a jerk. Other people are idiots. You hate your job. There are moments you're going to go through mood swings. You're going to hate yourself. You're going to hate your life. You're going to come home. You realize it's a studio. You want space, but there is no space available to you. So there are lots of things that are just suffocating you. Okay? And that's happening to me. So what happens is I begin to drink more and more and more. Well, you're going to self-sacrifice because you love me. You like the relationship. You like, to some extent, the life that we have built. And you will tolerate my addiction. You know, we'll read the Bible together. Maybe you'll come to me into the AA center. You do all sorts of wonderful things to me. So your loyalty is to me, to the relationship, and the story you've created about our relationship. I want to get married to Amir. I want to have Amir's children. All those things. Okay? And there comes a point where your trash bin, and all of us in this class have a specific garbage container that can only handle so much trash. So when you call waste management and they ask you, do you want like a garbage bin that's like 5 gallons, 25 gallons, or 50 gallons? And the higher you go, the more costly it's going to be. You look at your life and you say, you know what? It's just me and Amir. You know, we don't really have too much trash. And you say, I just want the smallest one, the 10-gallon one. Okay, $25 a month. Okay. So people have different capacities for trash. But eventually what happens is life is torturous. Life is problematic. Eventually your bin will get full. And so you say, you know what? I am so exhausted. You say, you know, I'm not going to make dinner tonight. I don't want to talk to him tonight. I don't want to see him tonight. Now your loyalty comes to you. You want to kind of do good too. You don't want to self-sacrifice him. You're tired. You're exhausted. I have exhausted you. Life has exhausted you. Okay. There was a French philosopher, and Cassera likes him very much because he is, after all, French. Even though I think she's moved on from France to Germany, perhaps. So there's a backstory which I will not tell you. But nevertheless, his name is Jean-Jacques Rousseau. And what he had argued was that when you see someone crying for help, someone in need, and they're in pain, something happens to you. I mean, unless you happen to be someone like a Trump, someone like an Elon Musk, who says, you know what, I have the power to just fire people. I don't care if they just bought a house. I don't care if they're pregnant. I don't care if someone has cancer or sick and dying and they need health care. I'm just going to fire them, period. If you happen to have become as callous as they are, that's a different story. But for most of us, when you see anyone in pain, something about you softens. And even though you may only have $5 in your pocket, you give them 4 and you keep 1 to yourself. Or you may be giving them entire 5. As you age, as life exhausts you, as your body becomes more frail, you become more discerning. Your loyalty becomes a bit more specific. A friend who's a drunk and you've tried to help him for the past 20 years, just in case he calls you, out of 20 calls, you pick up once. Because you've been there, you've done that. You can't extend yourself too much anymore. And so if someone comes in and says, I have a question about Karl Marx, that's also in need. But you realize, well, when you have intellectual conversation, when you're engaged like that, you like yourself better. A wonderful conversation about Karl Marx inspires you, forces you to sit, to write, to think, to feel. Your drunk friend, he exhausts you. And after you hang up the phone, you curse yourself for having picked up the phone in the first place. Sometimes you have certain goals in life. If you were to come to me and say, I want to come to your office tomorrow, I'm going to ask why. Are you going to talk about things you're interested in, or are you going to talk about things I'm interested in? It doesn't matter what you want to talk about. I will eventually gear whatever it is you want to talk about towards the things that I enjoy. But then my question is, would you have the ears to hear what I want to tell you? Because it's not a therapist office, man. Human problems don't go away. If you have money situation, if you have relationship situation, if you have parent situation, I have an easy solution for you. Study the things I tell you to study. Go to school for the things I tell you to go to school. Let me fix your life by giving you power. Instead of thinking about your father, for example, right? You take philosophy classes. You think about Plato. It doesn't mean that you're not going to think about your father, but instead of thinking about your father 10 hours a day, you'll think about your father like 2 hours a day. Plato becomes more important, which means that you will have platonic emotions inside you, platonic thoughts inside you, as opposed to ideas and emotions connected to your dad. You can't help your dad. But what you can do is you can go to school, get a master's degree, get a job in the classroom. Not only can you express your emotions, your hurts, your wounds in a philosophical way, you can also make money. Then put your dad into rehab. But to come to my office and harass me with your stories, why the hell would I want that? Does that, are we, Erica, yes. Derek? Alex? Skylar? Adrian! I was so close. I'm sorry, anything? Elise?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, I was going to ask, what's more useful, listening to social theories that have applicable examples or ones that do not?
I'm sorry, say again?
What's more useful, listening to social theories that have applicable examples or ones that do not?
Can I tell you a story? You sure?
Yes.
You know, when I came here in 1979, we had no money. We lived in Davis in a place called Cranbrook Courts. They used to give free donuts on Saturdays and orange juice. And because we had zero money, we would go there. And you would only be able to like get one, maybe two. My brother and I would go and steal. And then we had to like deliver sacrament to be, wake up at 3 in the morning, fold the papers, put them in a bag, get on our bicycle, rain, wind, and throw them at people's houses. Sometimes it would get too heavy, especially on Sunday, because they put a lot of ad. And so we would put the ads in the trash bin. And then people would call in and say, where are our ads? You know, and they would complain. But that wouldn't make us very much money. So we began to wash cars, wash floors, wash dishes, work graveyard. There was this place, Shell gas station on Del Paso Heights. It was a place for gangbangers, prostitutes, very, very nice people once you got to know them. Worked graveyard for about 2 years. Imagined that my body would adjust, but it would never. I didn't graduate from high school. Took the GED. My parents would send money from Iran so we could go to school, Sacramento City College. But you're young, you're the prodigal son. When you're a kid, you want to go out and have fun with life, so you just wasted money. Did I think about how difficult it was for my parents to make money and send it here? No, didn't think like that. I didn't take many things seriously. I wanted to be a tennis pro. I wanted to be like Cristiano Ronaldo on the soccer field. Then my parents came here. I washed cars for 20 years. I was embarrassed to even look at them because I had failed them. I was a loser. I still am. I'm just a different kind of a loser. You know what that makes me? I know what waste is. I know what it means to be an immigrant. I know what it means to be poor. I know what it means to work graveyard shifts. I come here at 4 in the morning, and usually security guards open the door for me, the tower building. I call in and they come and open the door. And every time someone opens the door for me, I say, if you want to come up, I can give you a bagel and some coffee. First, because I know how difficult it is to be up all night, especially if you don't have food. Okay? I am the way I am in the classroom because I don't like school. I know that out of the 20 things that you say to students, they forget 19 and a half of them, and only half remains with them. I know the difference between understanding and inspiration. This is a joke. I don't take myself seriously. I don't take you seriously. I don't take this information seriously. I was forced to live in life. I'm not like Carlton and Prince of Bel-Air. And that's the answer to your question. You ultimately have two people in life. Well, 3 or 4 or 5, but namely just 2. There are those who have an idea, but those ideas are never applied down here. You know, it's kind of like when you go to your mom and you say, I'm in love, and your mom looks at you and says, what a fucking idiot. And you spend all of your energy and time with this person. And your mom knows the outcome. She doesn't need to be a genius. She knows you're 18, you're a loser. Just by default, you have 0 life experiences, you don't know how to think well, your emotions are raw, uneducated, right? But you're in love. She's just waiting for the disaster to hit. Okay. Now, that's the stage in which you are, which is you love and you have some ideas about love, theories of love. You haven't yet experienced what it means to be burnt by love, to be betrayed by love. And you don't get betrayed by love, you get betrayed by your own perception of what love is. You betray yourself. And then you fall in love. And then you get broken up. And then you get depressed. And you got to do this over and over and over again. Then one day you say, fuck this. I'm not going to fall in love again. Unless someone decent and mature and worthy walks into my life. And then what's going to happen is you're going to marry this guy. You're going to have a kid. Your 12-year-old is going to come to you and say, Mom, I'm in love. Love? What are you talking about? Oh, Mom, you don't really understand what love is. You've never been in love. I see your relation with Dad. It sucks. You say, yeah, it sucks. You know how long it took us to get here? 20 years. And I love it. So there are some people who just like ideas. Political justice. Let's bring all these homeless people, build a huge building, and put them there. But what are you going to do with addiction? What are you going to do with anger? What are you going to do with depression? At least now they can only be that one person, the guy next to them. When you put them in a house, the entire thing is going to collapse. Then there are people who have ideas and they experiment with the ideas. And that's tough. That's the task of a really good teacher. That they choose students who have the capacity to undergo certain things. And it's always a shot in the dark. Because all of us may turn out to be a lemon. Like hollow. Cheap. The more experience you have in life, the more practical you're going to be. I've always believed that if you really want to save America, send your politicians to third world countries. Send them to certain parts of Africa, India, the Middle East. Let them see what dictatorship really looks like, what life really is like. You know, most places you gotta like spend hours in line to get like a gallon of milk. This is a great place. Theories. Richard? Yeah. Casera, yes. Yeah, Derek? Derek, right? Adrian. Derek. No. I'm teaching like 10 classes. I have no idea who's who. What was your name again? That's right. I don't know. First, anyone who knows what they're going to do, or those who don't, they're going to make some changes. We don't like change. I mean, right now, are you taking notes in this class? Are you taking notes? No, you come here without a backpack. Please. Imagine I was to die. Can you imagine that? You can? What kind of a human being are you? You should say, I can imagine you living to be like 200. So Derek, listen. So imagine I'm dead. And on Wednesday when you come to class, today is Wednesday, or Monday when you come to class, there is like this douchebag, right? He's like young, and all young people are to some extent idiots. He says, well, I'm going to do ABCD, make sure you take notes. Now, after 8 weeks of being here, you have to come with your notebook, take notes about things you can care less. And then at the end of every class, there's going to be a quiz. You gonna like that?
Yes.
No, the answer is no. The guy has his back to you. The only thing you can see is his ass. The rest of him is ugly, right? You don't even enjoy the information. The point I'm trying to make, whenever change comes our way, unless we like the change, we're not going to be happy with the changes. Imagine if you went home and your mom or dad told you, you know, pack up, we're moving to, say, Nebraska. You have your friends here. You like the smell of Oakland. You like the people. I mean, not really, but you just like the way they look from a distance. You know, I don't know if what Trump and Musk are doing are good, because history is kind of like a long term. You have no idea if the consequences are going to be. It's a debate in philosophy between David Hume and Immanuel Kant. Which is best, consequences or intentions? Okay, but all that aside, it may be that all the money that they're saving from firing people, maybe that money will get to Laney somehow. Maybe they'll change the buildings. Maybe it'll be more welcoming. Maybe the rooms will be a bit more cleaner. You know, maybe your chairs will have like a massager to them. That besides the point. Talking about change. You know, Derek, the more advanced a person is, the more his or her demands. Imagine if you were to go out with like an 18-year-old. Do you have a girlfriend? Did you ever have one? Whatever. So imagine you had a girlfriend. Or do you have friends? Okay. Imagine you have a friend. And you guys go out and dance or smoke or drink or play video games, whatever. Imagine one of your friends would say, you know what, every time we get together, let's read the Bible. Or let's read the dialogues of Plato. Or the Communist Manifesto. Would you hang out with that guy more often or less often? Less often. Yeah, why? Because he's going to demand that you think a little. That's too much, man. We don't want a Jesus Christ. He's far too demanding. We want someone like cheap, who gives us like bumper sticker changes. Exercise compassion. Just Raj, is it?
My question was, how do I detach myself from like the domesticated mindset that I've been taught? Kind of like the way I was raised, the culture, what I was told, I believe, how I was told to perceive it.
So, culture is like a buffet. There are some dishes that you're going to like. There are some dishes that you won't like. Okay? So initially you're going to eat whatever this buffet is going to give you. There's going to come a time where you say, you know what? I want to figure this out on my own. I don't want my mom to tell me what to eat. I don't want my dad to tell me what not to eat. I want to taste things. So there is the stage in life where you accommodate other people, kind of like loyalty to your parents, loyalty to the culture. There comes a point where in all of our lives where you become rebellious. So, no, I don't want to do this. I hate myself. And it's a stage that happens from, say, the age maybe 12 and a half, 13, and it's going to last. For men, it's going to last till about like 60. For women, it's like 32, 33. Okay? So you're going to be in this rebellious mode where you're fighting everything because you want to figure out where exactly you belong in the grand scheme of things. Once you kind of, to some extent, accept your place in life, you're going to go back to some of the things your culture has, and you're going to kind of feed off of them and be nourished by them. A wonderful movie came out from your own culture called Namaste or Namesake. It's about a guy who listens to like heavy metal music, hates his parents, hates whatever the Indian culture offers. And so his father eventually gives up, gives him a book, and then the father dies. And one day he's depressed, he's angry, he looks at the book and he really likes it. And then he begins to understand the wisdom of his father, who's passed for a number of months or years. He goes to India, understands the culture, loves the culture, marries an Indian, coming to realize that the Indian he married is a little American or Western, divorces her, and he kind of becomes a monk. Right now, you're not going to like your parents. In 20 years' time, you'll be exactly like your parents. That's how we function. You know, so if you come from a divorced background, for example, and even though you love your wife or your husband, there is this part of you that's always ready to walk out, and it's just waiting. And unless you pay attention, it'll consume you, and eventually it'll destroy your marriage.
Is that like domesticated mindset in a way?
I have 42 cavities. I have 42 cavities. Do you know why I don't go see a dentist?
Because you don't believe it?
No, it's not because I don't believe in it. It's because there is no pain. You're going to remain domesticated until it becomes very painful for you to remain domesticated. And since we don't like pain, you will fight against the pain, which means you will fight against domestication. Until then, you are going to be the way you are.
What? uh, If it's not pain, if it's confusion, with what actions you do, what choices you make, if there's confusion, if the conscious is, yeah.
Confusion is not enough. Look, I'm confused about my marriage. But there are lots of ways I can distract myself from confusion. If my wife came to me and said, I'm divorcing you because you're confused, then I'll be in a rush to figure out what exactly I need to do. Confusion is just like a slight itch that you have.
But should it be acted on? Or-
You may want to act on it, but you can't because it doesn't have enough forceful emotions behind it. Look, there are moments where you want to walk away from your alcoholic companion, but you find ways to tolerate his nonsense until you can no longer, then you walk away. I mean, pain is really, 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 really good because it kind of reminds you that you don't have infinite amount of capacity and you're just like falling into pieces. And then you take action. But until then, there isn't much you can do.
What if it's too late?
Well, that's how it is for most of us. Yeah.
Are there any female philosophers or authors that you recommend?
History hasn't been kind to women. Many of women in medieval period or antiquity, whenever they penned a book, they put a man's name as the author. There have been a few. I don't know them well, and I have a bias towards women teachers that they're just not good. I mean, academically they can be great. You know, some can be fantastic. Yeah, please. You know, we're over anyways. So, what you can do is you can email me. There is this woman from the last century, 20th century. She's beautiful. She has a couple of videos, Existentialism, Karl Marx and Plato, Jean-Paul Sartre. She's really good. But the rest, they're no good. I mean, they're great people, they're just no good teachers. Sorry. But if you're interested, send me an email. It's good to see all of you. Have a nice weekend. See you soon. Thank you.
Okay, funny thing about the Netflix example, I actually had that before.